Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this demo on NotebookLM. Can everyone hear me okay? If you would, just put a hand up in the chat, or excuse me, in the virtual hand up, or put yes in the chat and let me know. All right, perfect, thank you. Just gonna give it a couple more seconds here. I think some more people are gonna be popping in, and then we'll get started. Thank you. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Before we dive into NotebookLM, I did want to go ahead and remind you about help.charleston.edu. So if you're not familiar with this site, this is an IT site dedicated for training and support. So if you log into the site here and click on Search the Knowledge Base, if you have any questions regarding an academic application, whether it's OAKS, whether it's something related to Copilot, you can type in the topic or the question here in the search, and then that'll bring up a knowledge base article. We call it a KBA, or knowledge base article, and that's basically a tutorial or the steps needed to resolve that issue. So whether it's whether it's related to entering grades into OAKS or doing something with Copilot, or a variety of other applications, whether it's VoiceWrite or any of the different academic applications here on campus. And it's not just limited to faculty and staff, but also students. This is where you could type in and find that information that could be really helpful. Another thing I wanted to also bring up related to the charleston.edu, help.charleston.edu, is the submit a service request. So if you click down on this link down here, what this is going to do is allow you to then request training or support by clicking on the faculty and staff tab. And let me hold on one second. Let me put on the spotlight. Sorry about that. There we go. Now maybe you can see it better. So if you click on the faculty and staff tab and then go down to training and consultations, you can click on the IT training and support, and this will allow you to request a one-on-one consultation. So say, for example, with NotebookLM, you'd like to go and do a deeper dive, you would like a one-on-one consultation. You can click on this and request a consultation with one of the IT training and support team, or you can click over here on the training request, and that'll allow you to set up a small group training or departmental training on a topic that you're interested in related to academic application support. Okay. So I did want to just kind of draw that to your attention. And then also we do have a new hub site here. So these are also going to contain some of the frequently asked questions from the knowledge base. And then all those steps I just showed you at help.charleston.edu, you can click right here on these buttons and it'll go directly to those forums for you. And then we also have updated announcements, whether that's new news, updates regarding OAKS, our newsletter, or any of the upcoming trainings for IT training and support. So just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention. All right, so let's talk about Google NotebookLM. So I know there was a recent training, I believe, that mentioned Google NotebookLM. You may have already heard about it as well, just maybe from the media or just in your own personal experience. Show of hands, or someone, if you want to put it in the chat, if you've heard of it or you've used it before, perhaps, Google NotebookLM, that is. All right, okay, well, what we're going to do is take a look at actually what it is, how it works, and then some examples that you can use not only in your professional use cases, but also if you wanted to use it in your own personal use, it is available in both aspects. So we'll kind of get started with that. So what exactly is NotebookLM? Well, if you have ever used or heard of Evernote, which was a popular note-taking tool, if Evernote and ChatGPT had a baby, it would be something like NotebookLM. So it's a powerful AI assistant that lets you kind of create your own closed model, meaning that you can bring in sources from whether it's PDFs, docs, copied text, YouTube video transcripts, websites, anything like that. You create your own closed model, and then it allows you to ask questions of those source materials, which can be powerful for research, for studying. It can provide you with summaries, it can provide you with outlines. So a really powerful research, note-taking tool, research tool, if you will, that can help you with a variety of aspects, in your daily tasks. It provides you with personal insights. So each of the notebooks can hold up to 50 sources or 25 million words, which is a lot, actually. And it allows for more of a detailed analysis and makes those connections between sources and source material really powerful. And it also helps, if this were to be used for studying or also for marketing purposes, the audio overviews, which is what they call, we probably would call them more like a podcast. This could really be, powerful for students, I would say. But also, if you're wanting to market programs and events for your own departments, you could also use the audio overview tool to kind of capture their attention, whether they're commuting back and forth to campus. If it's a preferred way that you, in terms of your learning style, maybe that's something you like to do as you take a walk, or just being able to synthesize all of that, all those sources into an audio file and take that on the go is a pretty neat feature. And then, of course, Google says that they are privacy focused. Now, take that with a grain of salt because it is Google. But they say that none of the source materials that you're putting into the system are going to be used to train their model. So, for my interpretation, what it looks like is that they've trained this system, this model, if you will, to be able to create a closed model, meaning that you are putting in the source material and then it's going to just pull from that source material. Now, other tools like ChatGPT, they have a similar functionality with plugins. So, for example, you can enable a plugin in ChatGPT and then upload a PDF, and it can read the PDF, and then it can answer questions and do all these types of things. But the source of the plugin, in terms of being a verified source, I feel like that can be questionable. Where at least Google, you've come to know Google, and so the source material that is going into the closed model that you're putting in, I guess we could maybe trust them a little bit more when they say that it's going to be private and secure. And also, when you do a chat, once you refresh, if you don't save that note, and then that chat disappears. So I think it is a temporary chat. So those are some, I guess, of the privacy functionality that's built into this tool, as opposed to something like using plugins for ChatGPT or other models. Now, this one does use Google's Gemini, which makes sense because it's a Google product, so they're going to use their own AI model to power it. But like I said, I think they trained the back end of this on how to respond to provide insights, and there's some predefined features or functionality. But then you are supplying all of the source material yourself. So everything that you're putting in comes from your sources. And so some disclaimers here, because I think it's important always, whenever you're using any AI tool, to realize there are some positives, of course, and then some things that we have to be cautious about. Never enter any personal identifiable information or PI into chatbots. Even though Google says it's secure, I still would not put in a lot of, that kind of information. I wouldn't put it into Copilot. I wouldn't put it into ChatGPT. So just be mindful of that. I would never put that in. They say, everything on the internet, never dies or stays on the internet. Well, think about AI now. I mean, that's a whole nother layer, a whole nother thing. So I would never put, that kind of stuff into chatbots. So just keep that in mind. And then your output is only as good as your sources, especially when you're creating a closed model. Now, keep in mind something with like ChatGPT, that's using the internet, it's using sources that, I'm not even sure we know what the sources that it's using, all the sources that is, up till I think it was October 2023. So it's using that, plus it has access to the internet. So this is a closed model, again, meaning that you're building it, you're putting in your own sources. So the output's only going to be as good as the sources that you're putting in. So make sure they're trusted sources, peer reviewed, things that are going to provide reliable, valid data for you when you're building this. Another thing that I found in my testing is that this does not always use all the sources in the output, and I'm not sure why. I tried to research it a little bit more, and it looked like that it was related to sometimes the formatting, sometimes a word limit, and not necessarily of the sources I put in, but maybe the output. So I'll show you an example of this when we actually get to the notebooks themselves. But it was interesting that not all of them, were showing up in the results or the output. And then always verify your output. This goes with any AI tool, again, whether it's ChatGPT or any of those. But make sure that the results or the output is correct, because it is known to make errors, especially if it's interpreting your source material. Or again, if you have some, not shady sources, but like some websites or things like that, or even Wikipedia, which I'll show you an example. I have a Wikipedia source in one of these. So always verify your output. And this also I found in testing, from audio and YouTube video sources, that you definitely have to check those as well, because what it's using is it's creating a transcript for audio files. And then for the YouTube files, it has to have a YouTube video that already has a transcript attached. So if the pronunciation or some of the words are not clear, or if the transcript, which we know is not 100% accurate, If that's not a great transcript, then the output that's producing is not that great. So always verify, especially for audio. And then be careful with the podcasts themselves, so the audio overviews, because, and you'll hear this too, which is, I mean, they're fun, they're great, but you'll hear some of the tone, the sarcasm, the interpretation of the material. That could be offensive to your audience and some of your users, if you're sharing this with other people. So just be careful and review the podcast before you share them out with any of your audience. Okay, so how do I access NotebookLM? So this is the actual address. I'm going to put it in the chat right now so you can access that and put it into your favorites if you want to. But it's, again, it's just a public site, it's Google site. So it's notebooklm.google.com. And then from there, it'll take you to this page here. They've actually updated their logo. They had a logo that was a little bit dated, or I should say, they've updated this logo here in the last few months. But they've also had a lot of features. Now this is, I would say, kind of still in beta, even though it's, I guess, technically not. But they're updating it what seems like at least every quarter, if not sometimes monthly. But they're adding a lot of features to it, which is great. And they're also creating a business edition, which is supposed to be even more powerful, which I think will be in a pilot phase. And I think it'll be available for Google Workplace, as well as maybe institutions like us, I think higher ed institutions. But I have not done a lot of research on that right now. Now, keep in mind when you do access Google Notebook LM, you can click try it here, and then it'll prompt you to log in. Now, you can log in with your CFC email address, so it is part of our account, but students cannot. They have to use their personal address to log in. So, and that might change in the future, but currently they have to use a personal account to log in. And again, it's completely free, so they can use it, with their personal accounts. And again, it's a very powerful study tool, so I would definitely recommend and push this for your students, because what they can do is put their, and we'll talk about this more in a second, they can put all their notes from your course, into it. They can put in, if they're using an e-text, if they're allowed to copy that, I'm not sure, if it's open source text, that kind of thing. They can put all those things into their personal notebook there and provide themselves with a study guide, the podcast, all that stuff can be very effective and very powerful for them. So again, pushing this and recommending this to your students, I think, could be very helpful. And again, it's not limited to just academic use for them. It could also be used for departmental things, whether it's related to something about majors or orientations or anything like that that might be useful for your department. Could definitely build and share these with students, or at least the podcasts. And I think that could be a really useful marketing tool and really helpful. So anyways, you'll click on this and click on Try Notebook. It'll prompt you to log in, and I've already logged in with my CFC account, and we'll go back here in a second. But you can log in with your CFC account, or you can log in with your personal account, or do both. So if you want to have a personal one and do things that you're around the house, that kind of stuff, or recipes, that kind of thing, you can put all those things into that, and then use your CFC account, of course, for school-related stuff. So that's how you would access that. Can students share the notebook with us? Good question. I think you can share with anyone, so I don't think there's a problem with that. Now, it will come from their personal account. We can click on the share link here once we go into the notebooks themselves, but I don't think there will be an issue with doing that. So I think there's, just like with other Google Docs where you can, anyone with a link can access it or that kind of thing. I don't think it's restricted to a certain, I don't think it'd be locked down, but we can definitely check that. Is there an app version similar to app version? I don't know. I actually haven't checked on iPad or iPhone or Android or anything like that. I've only used the web version, so there could be. Sorry, I don't know that right now, but yeah, there could be one. I just haven't checked. But this right now, as far as I know, is the way to access it here. And then what can you do with NotebookLM? So obviously the main thing is that you can ask questions of any of your source material. So that's gonna be the most powerful thing. But there are some baked in features. I'm kind of going to go over these a little bit because they don't tell you what they are. They just have the buttons there. And I was like, what are these? So I had to do a lot of research to find out like what exactly these produce, what it means, what the differences are. And it's still not very clear. These are just some of the answers I found, but it can create an FAQ. So just as we know, like, questions and answers. So I'm not sure how, again, I don't know how they trained using Gemini, how they trained this to produce these, predefined outputs or responses. But all it would say is that it creates a common list of questions and answers. So I don't know how it determines those from the sources or anything like that, but it just creates the questions and answers. So not a great, great definition or anything like that of the first one, which is FAQ. Now the study guide, like I said, is very powerful. It can be used for your own, personal research. It can be used if you are doing academic things to create questions for your courses, that kind of thing. But also really importantly for your students studying. So I think it's a great thing for them. So it creates short answer questions with an answer key, essay questions, and a glossary of terms. So very powerful there for them. And you can use all sources. You can just do one source. You can create multiple study guides and do each source individually. You can do all 6 sources, 10 sources, whatever you want to do. So kind of really powerful and really, really neat to be able to, kind of dial that in. The table of contents creates a structured overview outlining main sections and subsections. So again, just kind of like an outline, if you will, might be useful when you're research if you're trying to just get an idea of all the articles that you put in for your lit review. You just kind of want to get an idea of like the main ideas of everything before you start getting how you're going to approach your paper or whatnot. The timeline, that creates a chronological sequence of events or key points. In testing this, I wasn't impressed. I mean, I think it would be valuable if you are teaching something like history, where you have a lot of dates, or you have something that has a lot of steps or timestamps or some kind of sequence. But when I was testing it with just a chapter on memory for my course, it was trying to interpret from the sources some of the people and some of the dates, and it just said like, I really can't do this. So I think again, it's more valuable for just like it says a timeline, which would imply history or the sciences maybe or something like that, where there's sequences, steps, that kind of thing. The briefing doc is another one. It does, how is this different from a table of contents? It doesn't really go into that a lot, but it creates a an overview of key themes and ideas. So again, kind of not really much, not many details available on the differences between these two, and we'll look at them just so you can see them. But again, they don't really define these predefined options here. They just kind of present those with you, and then you have to kind of analyze them and see what the differences are. But there's like no real definition from Google or anything like that that kind of clarifies that. The audio overview, which we talked about before, it's really, I mean, if you haven't heard it yet, you're going to be like, wow, this is crazy. It's a very NPR style podcast with 2 hosts, and it's very lifelike. They make jokes, they have sarcasm, it's creepy and crazy. And again, if you think about it from this perspective, this is as bad as it's ever going to get. So like, all these programs that you're using now and the limitations and all that stuff, this is as bad as it's going to get. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't even know what's going to happen. Like, I'm not even sure we're going to be able to distinguish reality from, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be crazy. So you'll hear here in a second just the differences with this and how creepy it is. But now the other downfall I would say to this is that they all sound the same. So it's the same 2 hosts, same voices. You really can't change it up. They did just put in an update where you can kind of tweak what you want. But even though you ask them to focus on certain things or ask them for, because a lot of times they'll produce like it's 12 minutes or 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh, I don't want a 20-minute podcast. I want like a 1-minute podcast for marketing purposes or something like that. And you say, create a short one or keep it under 5 minutes. It doesn't always listen to what you tell it. So I'm not sure. Again, I know they're tweaking it, but all that to say, like it's pretty crazy. So you'll hear that here in a second. And of course, ask questions. So it's going to not only answer your questions, it's going to provide those citations from your sources so you know where it got the answer from. So that's pretty cool. And I did highlight the top 3 that I thought were the most powerful, use cases for this or functionality of this tool. And then, of course, share notebooks. So you can share those with, your colleagues. Say you did a departmental notebook and you put all your meeting minutes in there from the whole year. And you're like, oh, I don't remember when that was that we talked about this. You just ask it and it'll find that in the meeting minutes from like 5 meetings ago or whatever. So that can be powerful if you use it for that instance. If you're doing research with a colleague at another university and you're sharing a notebook and you guys are, both in there looking at that, that can be powerful too. I mean, students sharing notebooks for studying, I mean, all kinds of stuff that you can do with this. So, a great tool all in all. And again, very much, probably one of all the different things that I've seen in AI, I think this one is probably the best developed in terms of the use case for AI and what it can do. And again, it's very early, so it's amazing, but they've already got it up to speed. And I think Google has already created another offshoot of this called Illuminate, I believe. And that's a whole nother podcasting type thing based on this that they use for the audio overview. that's going to have a lot more functionality and like tweaking, so you can create even better podcasts from different things. So that's a whole nother product that I've seen. Haven't researched it yet, or haven't played with it yet, I should say. But that's also out there. So they're developing this and they're growing it and they're continuing to add features. And again, if this is the worst that it is, think about what it's going to be like here in a few years. It's going to be crazy. And then what file types does Notebook accept? So if you see like a crazy amount of audio files, I think that's like, wow, like that's every audio file, that I've seen, which is pretty crazy. Now, again, your output is only as good as your source. So if the audio is not very clear, if the, pronunciation of words is not clear, the interpretation of that and the transcript that it's trying to create from this is not going to be great. So audio is not the best, I would say. Obviously, the text it can read the best. Now, when you are uploading a Google Slides presentation or other materials, it's not going to use the images. So if you have any charts or graphs or anything like that with text on it in an image, it's not going to be able to look at that or read that. So it has to be actual text, not an image. So from what I could tell from what it said, is that it cannot use any of the images or anything like that at this time. It's going to incorporate that later, but at this time it can't use any images. It's only using the text, so it's going to bring in text from things and not images. So if there's text on images, it's not going to bring it in. Even your PDFs, it's got to be able to be OCR, have like text, and not just be an image PDF, so it can read that text from there. And so for the audio, it's going to interpret that, put it into like a transcript type situation. And then for the YouTube videos, it's going to then require a YouTube video that has a transcript. And so you'll see here in a second too, I did another test where I had a conference video that was unlisted, and then I made it public. So it has to be public. It can't be unlisted or private. And it said anything that's a new public video will not be able to be added yet. And so even though I have the transcript on and I have the captions and all that stuff, I don't know how long it takes to actually allow that source to be used. So that's why I'm testing it. I uploaded it to see how many days it takes until that new video can be then used as a source. So we're testing that too, just to see. And then, of course, anything with Google Docs. Now, it doesn't have like Word docs and things like that yet. Now, if you upload a Word doc into Google Docs, it'll convert that into a Google Doc. Formatting might be a little messed up, but it'll do that. But you can also copy and paste text. So that's not an issue if you want to just copy and paste text into as a source material. You can use Markdown text, which I'm not even sure what that's used for, but that's the MD there. PDFs, which are most common, especially if you're trying to use peer-reviewed articles from the library, that kind of thing, and then text, and then of course Google Slides if it has the text on there and not a lot of images, because it's not going to be able to take anything from the images there. All right, any questions about this? It's just kind of like a general overview of the products, what it can do from this perspective, and then the file types, and then we'll go into the actual application itself and take a look at some examples, and then what we can ask of it, what we can do with the actual tool. Okay. All right, so now I am, again, I would click on try this and it would log me in as my CFC account. And then I'm already in here and I've already got notebooks. So you can see I've got several notebooks. I did this just for examples because one of the issues is that the podcasts take a while to generate. And, if I try to generate these on the fly while we're doing this, and they might not be ready for you. So I wanted to kind of have these, created in advance and have the examples here. And then be able to show you the podcast while we're in here. So if I were to create one from scratch, I would just click on Create New. And then the first thing it wants you to do is add your sources, okay? So you can upload your source here by clicking Choose File. And if I have any of the PDFs or anything like that available, I could just click on this and find, let me see, in my notebook here, I could just click on any of these and click on a PDF here. And this would just upload the PDF as a source to this notebook. And so it's just adding that source to the notebook now, and it's reading it. And it's already got a summary ready for me. And then here are the predefined options that we talked about just a second ago. So you can kind of see all these things are ready to go right here. And then here is the audio overview or the podcast. So if I click generate, it'll just create a podcast right now. But I can customize it. Like I said, I've tried to do this. It has not been that effective. So I've tried to say keep it under 5 minutes or keep it under a minute, and it still was like 12 minutes. You could say who your audience is or that kind of thing. So I think it does try to adjust a little bit on the topic or the audience. I mean, not a great job, but I don't think it's quite there yet, but their new product might be where they're putting a lot of their efforts into. Okay. So this just pops up right when you have your source ready. So if I click on the sources over here, you can see this is an article. And we're going to show you this in the actual course view too. So this is showing you the article, and then it's showing you the whole article here. And just you can see the formatting, how it's just kind of taking the text. It's not very pretty. It doesn't look like the actual PDF article. But it's just showing you that this is what it's using, and it's just stripped all the text from there. Okay. And if I bring it up over here, let me see if I can find it for you. This one. So, so you can see here, this is the actual article. And then this is here how it looks when it brings it over to you. And it does provide you a summary. It has key topics are ready to go. You could rename your article if you want to. So you can click on this ellipse here, and you can click on rename this. So if you want it to be called something else like article, or something more related to the topic, you can do that. But if I just click study guide, so this is the only source I have if I'm a student, for example. If I just click study guide, it doesn't take that long. Well, I say that now, it'll probably take a long time. But what it does is just looks at the article, analyzes it, and then it's going to create that study guide. And that's going to have the short answer questions and the answers, the essay questions, and then it's going to also have the glossary of key terms, which might be difficult for an article. But you can see it tried to pull all that out from this article. So again, if you were, say testing your students on a particular article, or if you guys are reviewing an article for your department or anything like that, you can already have some guiding questions, things like that you can discuss or go over, and it already produces that pretty quickly. And so you can save, your notes, or you can delete your notes by just clicking on it and click delete if I wanted to get rid of that. You can also, I think, rename your note if you wanted to, call that study guide. So you have the option to kind of do that, but that's just, using one source, just bringing that in, just quickly showing you some of the different predefined options here. Now, again, like I mentioned before, probably one of the most powerful things, can you generate multiple formats at the same time? Oh yeah, so I can go ahead and click on, good question, Joey, and go ahead and click on FAQ, table of contents, timeline. I click on all of them, and it'll just keep doing that. And I could even click on the podcast, and it'll just go ahead and do that as well. It'll all work in the background while you're working on different things, so that way you can kind of course, it's going to all hit you at one time there. So you can kind of already have that all ready to go. But like I mentioned before, sometimes, and if you don't rename it, you may not know. Like this one says briefing doc, which is nice, but some of the other ones you may not know. Well, this one says timeline, but some of the other ones, might be a little hidden as to what they are. But the briefing doc, again, the main themes here, key findings, important quotes. I like that feature there, the important quotes. I think that's pretty cool. Practical applications, limitations, overall conclusion. So that's fast. I mean, anybody even ask any questions, I could just produce the briefing document for an article, and that's pretty effective. But I can also type in here, what are the results? Please explain it to me like I'm in 10th grade. So for students that aren't as familiar with how to interpret studies, that kind of thing, have it, explain it to them in a way they can understand it perhaps. And that's where you're using stuff that's like similar to what you might do in ChatGPT. You can do that in here. And again, it's only using this article. And you can see it's also adding the citations here for where it's finding this in the article, which is really cool. So right here, it's just going to give me the summary, and it's going to explain it, in a little bit gentler way for me to understand as opposed to more of the technical stuff. So overall, people remembered less information when they read it on a smartphone than when they read it on a computer or paper. So anyways, as you get these answers and things like that, if I just refresh, this will go away. But if I want to save this, I save it as a note. So I can click Save to Note. And now that'll be saved here as opposed to just disappearing because now I'm no longer needing that chat. And I guess that's related to the privacy and security. It's more like a temporary chat. So you can do that here and just say either, okay, that's cool, or you can save it as a note and keep that. You can also just add notes as you're wanting to do things. So you could just, put in notes in here as you're researching things, as you're doing things. It doesn't have to be right from the source material. You could just add notes by clicking Add Note and just add notes. So if you're sharing this with, students, with other colleagues, and say you're researching together, doing other things, you can add notes in there for them to read or to understand. that's not used in the source material to produce these other things if you want to. So that's pretty cool. Oops, and then delete that note there. What else can we do with this real quick? So the audio overview is ready, so I'll go ahead and play this real quick if you want to hear a sample. It's going to be even more, I think, impactful for some of the other things, but this is just based on one article, so we'll do this real quick.
All right, so you want to know more about how like what we read on affects like what we remember?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who doesn't, right?
Right.
So we found this this study from behavioral sciences called "Don't Throw Away Your Notebook."
Interesting.
Can you guys hear that? Did everybody hear that okay?
And that title alone, I was like, whoa, I gotta check this out.
Yeah.
It's all about how different devices, so phones, computers, and paper impact our memory.
Oh, okay.
And they even look at like how hard the stuff we're trying to learn actually is.
So it really kind of challenges those blanket statements that we sometimes hear, like screens are bad for you.
Right.
This study goes way deeper, looks at specific devices and types of information.
Exactly. And so this study was done at Peking University.
Okay.
With 210 people.
Got it.
And they basically gave everyone 3 memory tasks.
Okay.
Each one like a little tougher than the last.
Mm-hmm.
So the easiest one was remembering sentences about everyday life.
Okay.
Like kind of like a simple story, and then they bumped it up to remembering sentences about academic stuff.
Yeah.
Think textbook material.
Okay.
Yeah. And then for like the real brain buster, they had people memorize pairs of Swahili and Chinese words.
Wow. Swahili and Chinese word pairs.
Yeah.
They chose those specific languages because they're so different. It forces the brain to work extra hard and reduce.
I mean, how crazy is that, right? And so I did see a question in the chat. Can you change the voices? Not in this program. So like I said, the Illuminate one, I think is what it's called. There might be an option for that. I have seen people download this and then use something like 11 Labs, which is another AI program that you can create voices. And so you probably could do that in another program, but not in here. So the only thing that they've updated in here, which is just very recently, was to be able to change the focus or the audience or the time. But again, the time hasn't really changed much for me. But the audience and the focus, again, was a little better, but not right. I mean, like it's not there yet. Now, if you click on the ellipse over here, you can do download. So you can download that and just, again, you listen to it on the go as you're taking a walk, as you're commuting to campus, on the bus, that kind of thing. Or again, for your students, if this is them creating a study guide for themselves, wow, how powerful is that? So pretty cool. And how quick is that? And like I said, this could not just be used for academic purposes, but for marketing. So because I know we have a lot of staff on here too, but for marketing purposes, or even, for academic, departments too, marketing purposes for different, different programs, events, that kind of thing. So, I mean, pretty cool. And that's just this is just the beginning here of how we get started. I'm going to go into the examples and things like that here. But if we go to share, and so let's see, that's who has ownership. All right, so can I add? So copy the link, but does that, okay, so if I just copy the link, I guess I can just share that. It doesn't have a restriction. So I think it was Beth's question, can we just share with anyone, that kind of thing? I think so. So I have Laura in here, but I don't know. I think if I just copy the link, it would let me. I don't think it's restricting anything. It doesn't say like restricted to only a CFC, restricted to certain people. So I think it would just copy it. Actually, let me just copy that and send it in the chat. Let's do that. Yeah, I mean, if you were to do something like that, you would probably want to give credit to it, to Google, or at least I know a lot of places now you have to say this was AI generated, so you may have to also say that, or say that it was created with this program. Because I think we have to distinguish now. I think that's an ethical thing as well. It's just like, did humans create this or did AI create this? So I think if you just say NotebookLM created this podcast, or if you say that AI created this or the help of AI. I think that's okay, but I think we do have to do that just because of now, like I said, in 5-10 years, what is reality? We don't even know. Okay, nobody could get into that. So yeah, I'm gonna have to research that then. I'm not sure why it wouldn't let me share that. Maybe because you guys don't have accounts yet? Okay, maybe Beth, do you have an account? Did you already create an account? Okay, so Beth has an account. Joey, do you have an account? Maybe you don't have one yet? Okay. No content in there. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely have to play with the share settings more. Like I said, I haven't really shared with anybody yet. I've been using it myself and testing it and that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, let me double check on settings here and make sure there's nothing else. Yeah, nothing there. Notify people. Yeah, I don't think giving it a name will help. But that's interesting. Okay, well, we'll definitely test that some more. All right, let's go to the notebooks here and take a look at some examples and what we can do with this and how we can use this. And again, obviously, the sharing part is going to be helpful for a lot of these things. All right, so again, this is the academic or spec course. So if you're an academic department, if you're a professor, an instructor, and you're doing an academic course, or if you're staff and you have a spec course, orientation, that kind of thing, you could definitely use this for that purpose. You can use this, and assuming we figure out the sharing part and how we can share, um, we could definitely, do that and share with our students and other colleagues, which I'm sure there is. I don't know what's going on with that. So maybe it does take a little bit of time or something like that, but we'll definitely have to do some more testing with that. So in here, you can see I've got all the different source types. I wanted to kind of put those in and generate them. Interesting thing is when you upload a Google Slides presentation, it does show like the slides. So again, like this is an image, so it's not taking this text, but it's going to take the text from here. But it does show you the actual presentation, which is cool. All right. Then I've got those 2 journal articles that you saw before. I have an open source textbook, so it stripped all the text here. And I'll show you an example, I guess, of the sources too, so you can see them. Where's that? Oh, here it is. So this is just the open source textbook, just for testing purposes. So this is what it did look like, and then you saw it stripped it down just to the text in there. So if you're using open source text, if you're using an e-text and it allows copying, and again, I'm not sure, if there's permission issues or anything like that. But if you are using something like that, students can copy and that kind of thing. Or again, just their notes. All the notes are taken in your course. Now, handwritten notes not going to probably work. You're going to have to type those into a Google Doc, a Word doc, something like that, convert it. So if they're not taking notes on their computer or their phones, if they're handwriting them, I'm not sure unless there's a good handwriting to text conversion application out there that's going to really understand their handwriting. But you're going to want to probably have that in a clean, text format so that this can read that. Wikipedia here, I just went to the memory chapter or memory page for Wikipedia, all about memory. So we have that here. And then the YouTube video, and it does show you the video here, which is pretty cool for memory here. So I just wanted to upload all the sources just to kind of put them in here. And then I went ahead and using all the sources, kind of produced the same things that we did just a second ago, just so you can kind of see the differences here. So this is the FAQ with the different types of memory. So they're using 6 sources. It kind of took all this as the most important stuff, including those journal articles, information processing model, difference between short-term and working, what are examples of encoding failures. So all the stuff that they thought were important, or that the model thought was important, Gemini, I guess, for memory. And then the study guide, like I said, very powerful for students. The short-term, short answer questions and the answer key, essay questions, and the glossary of terms. I've seen on shorter source, using less sources, I've seen that it does like a bulleted list. This looks a little messy here with what it created on this, but still it's going to give them the key terms and that kind of thing. But I have seen when you use less sources, it does do like a bulleted list as opposed to this kind of paragraph here. So just keep that in mind. I noticed that it did not recognize. Yep. So yeah, the YouTube video, like I said, it has to be public. It has to be public for so long. I'm not even sure. It didn't tell me a time to be able to have a transcript for that. But the Spotify podcasts and things like that, you probably have to download the audio if you can, if it's an audio format. But the URL, it doesn't like that. I've tried various different things, extracting from VoiceThreads, that kind of thing. And certain URLs, it has to be like text only. So whether it's like a website or whether it's coming from I guess maybe like an online PDF. But yeah, some of those things it does not like. How do you produce stuff in this view, like the table contents? Oh yeah, sorry. So back like we did before, you just always click on this notebook guide right here. I mean, that's not really intuitive. I'm not sure why they did that here, but you click on this down here, and then it gives you those predefined options right here. So those I just clicked on just to generate those in advance, and so that's already ready to go. And I'll load so I already created a podcast, so I'm going to click on load again just to bring this back up so you can hear the one on memory for students. I think that one might have been like 19 minutes or something like that. 12 minutes, okay. So we'll do that here in a second as well. Oops. All right, you gotta hit that, I guess, to go down. I'm like, go away, how do I get this to go down? You gotta click on the notebook guide again to go down. So things I need to kind of work on in terms of button placement and how things work. The table of contents here using this is what I wanted to point out too about the sources. So again, we know there's 6 sources, and this is the table of contents, but if you look, I think it's only giving me 4 sources. So here's source 1, the Google Slides, source 2, the Wikipedia, where's source 3 at? Source 3, memory performance, that's one of the articles, the peer-reviewed articles. Source 4, the textbook, and that's it. So 4 out of the 6 sources. Now, what I suspect is because some of these sources are pretty large word limits. Maybe that's the problem. I'm not sure. Like I said, I couldn't find a reason for that. But if there's 6, or maybe there's a word limit on how much it can produce, like in this window here or whatnot. But if there's 6 sources, I would expect 6 sources in the table of contents. So I really don't understand why that is. But again, these are some things, I guess, that come up. Can I edit this? No, I can't really even do anything with this. So I can change the title here. I can delete it, and then I can minimize it. So that's all you can really do with some of the predefined options. And that's why I said I think the most powerful thing is like you asking questions of your sources. So it's basically like using ChatGPT with a plugin. You can ask all of your sources questions and know that you're in a secure location to do that and not have to worry about like, is this a shady plugin? Is this and this? So I think that's the most powerful thing is being able to ask questions. And then here the timeline. This information does not contain a historical narrative with a sequence of events. So try to put some stuff in here. So try to look at like the characters. So like the psychologist and whatnot, and try to put them into like some kind of a timeline. So like I said, not that great, probably more beneficial for history, more maybe for the sciences where there's, sequences, steps, that kind of thing. But did not work for this given the topic that is. I think we talked about the briefing doc here, so kind of did that. It does put in some quotes from the different sources. I think this is more powerful for marketing materials and that kind of thing where you need quotes and that kind of stuff could be really useful. I mean, obviously, what's the difference between this one and the outline, that kind of thing we talked about. Some kind of interesting. But anyways, it's, I guess the predefined options are just what they are. Maybe they'll edit those or maybe allow you to customize those in the future. I asked a question in here. I said, what is the memory for touch called? And so it looked at all the sources. So and how I did that is just typing in here. So I just did, what is the memory for touch called? And so this is the response that it produced. And so it's haptic memory. And so then it also gave me the 2 sources that it pulled from. I think it was the Wikipedia sources. So again, asking questions of the sources of the source material. And I can select everything if I think it's in one of these, but I don't know which one it is. Or if I know it's in one source, I could just click on the one source and ask the questions. So you can always turn on or turn off any of these sources if you want to when you're asking questions or when you're running any of these predefined options here. Okay. So maybe, I got to click on there. So then again with the articles here, I just asked for a summary of the article, the journal article that is. So what is the journal article? Tell me a summary of this and how can I improve using this information? What might be implications for improving my memory? So then it gave me these, these 3 things here, or 4 things, I guess. Prioritize sleep, time your sleep strategically. So, and this was, again, how to, if you're studying that kind of thing, how to retain the most information. So sleeping for 3 hours after learning can be particularly beneficial. Minimize distractions before you sleep, so don't listen to the radio, don't watch TV before you sleep. And then make sure your room, obviously, is conducive for sleep. So these were the things I could pull out of this article that would help me when I'm studying in terms of solidifying some of those memories so I can take the exam or do the activity and remember the things that I was learning about. And then for the video one, what I did again was just select the video source and then ask the question here. I asked it for a summary of the video. So I said, what are the main points of the video? And then it gave me the main points and it also gave me some questions. So that was pretty cool too, using just that one source, just the video transcript for that video. So again, really cool. And then I will go ahead and click on the audio overview.
Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today we're tackling something pretty fundamental, memory.
Oh yeah, memory, big one.
We've actually got a whole stack of sources for this one. Some Wikipedia, scientific study we dug up, even cracked open a textbook. So
wow, going old school with the textbook.
got to do it sometimes. But the goal here isn't just to, define memory. It's to see how we can actually use what we learn about it.
To our advantage. Yeah.
Exactly. Improve our own memory, learn some tricks.
What's funny is most folks just assume memory works.
It's just there.
Yeah. But without it, no language, relationships, you wouldn't even know who you are.
It's true. And it's not like one big memory bank either. Wikipedia breaks it down into different types, right? Sensory, short-term, long-term.
Like stages of a mental processing line.
Right. And each type, get this, is linked to different parts of the brain.
Totally. Sensory memory. That's all about your senses taking
So how cool is that? So students downloads that. I'm assuming again their sources are correct and everything like that, and they listen to that, while they're going on a run, working out in the gym, or I mean even us, not just them, but I mean like that's really cool. So again, really neat. I think that could be really a game changer for helping students with retention and helping them, with everything. Could be, again, really, really neat use case. Here is the audio file here that I did. So this was from an old training that I had that was how to transfer Zoom videos, because we have the retention policy, how to transfer Zoom videos to YouTube. And so I brought over the audio from Zoom. So in Zoom, you can download the video or you can download just the audio. So I downloaded just the audio and I uploaded the audio to NotebookLM. So I have that in here. I also going to go ahead and click on the podcast just to see what it says. And if it's still there, I mean, assuming every time I do this, it doesn't change the podcast. But let's see what it says real quick.
Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm always so fascinated by the creative ways educators are using technology.
Yeah.
And your request today is like a perfect example of that.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a deep dive into your notes on moving Zoom recordings to YouTube for educational purposes.
Okay.
Now, I can already hear some folks out there thinking, YouTube, isn't that for like cat videos and music?
Yeah.
But trust me, your notes from this training session highlight some seriously compelling reasons why YouTube might just be the secret weapon for educators.
You're absolutely right. There's so much more to YouTube than meets the eye, especially when it comes to education.
Yeah.
We'll be exploring how it compares to platforms you might already. Exactly. It's think about it. That familiarity is complete. There's a video platform specifically when it comes to institutions.
Sorry, what I was trying to find was, I believe in here, they say that we were from the University of Central Florida or something like that, because in the transcript I said CFC, and then I don't know if it wasn't clear or didn't understand. So instead of it saying CFC, it thought it was UFC or something like that. It said University of Central Florida. And so that's what I was trying to point out really from this, but I'm not sure where it is. I thought it was in the first part of it here. But anyway, so what I was trying to point out is that, remember when I told you about the audio coming from audio, whether it's a audio that you upload, in this case it was from Zoom or from YouTube, if there's any pronunciation or anything that it can't interpret or it doesn't, it hears what it wants to hear or whatnot, then it does say, it says that. So it says that there instead of saying what I wanted it to say. So I guess in essence, you have to correct your transcript. So if your transcript is not right in Zoom, or if your video, if you haven't gone in and edited your captions or your transcript, then whatever it's using, it's going to produce with the podcast or other, source materials or the output, I guess, from this, it's going to be incorrect. So that's why I said always verify that. I was trying to find that there by skipping around, but I'm not sure where it is. I thought it was in the beginning of the video. Anyways, just keep that in mind, because I think that was one of the issues, is when I went back in there and looked, it looked like it said CFC. So maybe it was Central Florida. I don't know what it was, but it did not say College Charleston or CFC or anything like that. And it usually does a pretty good job even of interpreting somehow like abbreviations. So it does know like what the colleges are, even without you saying College of Charleston. But in that particular instance, in this instance, I was trying to point that out, but I'm not sure where in the timeline it was. It said Central Florida or something like that. So I wanted you to just be mindful of that as an example. And then for this right here, what I just did was then after this is weird, it's audio, right? So it's like, am I going to listen to this whole thing or watch this whole video? So I just said, what are the steps to transfer videos from Zoom to YouTube? And then here it just gave me the steps right here. And this is exactly what are from the actual transcript here. So, download the Zoom recording to your computer, create a YouTube channel, account and channel, and then make sure you verify your account, because you can't upload videos longer than 15 minutes if you don't. Upload the Zoom recording. So, I mean, like, it tells you all that now. Is it super detailed? No, but it does give you all the steps that are necessary. So that's pretty cool too. So again, that's just using an audio transcript from Zoom. So there's a lot of implications for this. If you guys are recording your meeting minutes if you're recording interviews for, conducting job interviews with certain candidates and that kind of thing, and you guys are doing it via Zoom, and you want to put that into an audio, download the audio recording and put that into here, and then ask questions if you don't remember something about the candidate or something about the interview or whatnot. That could be a beneficial use for this. So there's lots of uses, I think, just of this again, but just check your transcript is what I was getting at. Check your transcript for all of this. And what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to download this and put it to a podcast and see how it turns out. We'll see. I'll share that and see how it turns out. Another thing is the events calendar. So again, looking at everything that you guys are doing, whether it's, again, staff, faculty, anything like that. So if you're using the events calendar for the college, and so we have our events here, and I just have them all in this one. This is a filter, so it's all sorted by our events that we're offering, both for faculty, staff, and students, the trainings that are upcoming. So I just I fed that into here, by putting in the source, and I just did the website right here. And so what I did was just copy my link to this filtered data from the events calendar from the college, and it's already in here, so I don't know, it might duplicate everything. But it's already in here, so that's the new source here. This is the existing one, so I'm just going to turn that off. But that's the one I already did previously. So what I did was filter all of our upcoming trainings here, both for faculty, staff, and students. Put it in here, and now you can ask it questions like, which trainings, which upcoming trainings are for students. Again, not really what I'm wanting to do with this. I'm just showing you an example. And so it's going to sort all this calendar information out. And again, you can see on here, the data is really kind of hidden on here. So it's actually, I think, pulling it from each of these different sessions somehow, like going into there and pulling that. So these are correct. So like the upcoming ones for students are the Grammarly ones that are coming up on the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. So we have all of those. But what I really wanted to highlight here is that if you upload calendar events, what another neat idea for your podcast, because then it can highlight those events and draw attention to them for, again, whatever student events are coming up.
Hey everyone, getting prepped for spring 2025 at the College of Charleston.
Yeah, got that spring 2025 workshop scheduled.
Well, we're diving deep into that schedule today to help you all make sense of it all.
And wow, some seriously interesting.
So do we need a 9-minute podcast for this? No, I don't think students probably want to listen to a 9-minute podcast. But again, I was trying to get it to shorten it, and so maybe you could do just a couple or one event or something like that, but maybe that will shorten it. But
stuff happening.
There is, right. I mean, AI for note-taking. Workshops on how to spot AI written text. The future is now.
It really is. It's great to see the college embracing these new technologies.
It is.
And providing these resources. Like even just looking at the 2 workshops that are all about helping faculty and staff work more efficiently.
Right.
That ultimately benefits students too.
Let's break those down. There's the Google NotebookLM.
Right.
AI demo coming up on November 20th. And then there's the ITTS workshop. How to submit final grades straight from OK's to Banner.
Yeah.
Offered twice.
So you heard that? So that was supposed to be Oaks to Banner. And I don't know why it didn't like that or why it didn't. So again, you have to really listen to these before you put them out. But I don't know why, because it says Oaks to Banner. So I'm not sure why it didn't say Oaks. And in other examples of this, it has said Oaks before. So interesting. But again, this is AI. This is where we are now. So again, just take that with a grain of salt. So anyways, events calendar. This could be something for marketing purposes. This could be useful, I think. Kind of cool. Departmental meeting minutes. So in here, because the faculty senate meeting minutes go out all the time. So I just have the faculty senate meeting minutes here. And then you can ask anything, and actually it gives you some also some questions here. I didn't really point this out, but suggested questions, what decisions were made and voted on during the meeting. So I can just click that and it'll just pop that up for me because I'm like too long, didn't read. I didn't want to look at all that, you know what I mean? So what decisions were made? And so it'll just tell me right now, okay, they approved the meeting minutes from September, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you can just go ahead and bring in your meeting minutes from your departmental meeting minutes, your Senate meeting minutes, your committees, all that kind of stuff. Have that in here. And then again, the cool part is with the podcast. But this is this is the part where I told you about tone and sarcasm and things like this. This could be offensive the way that they either present things or say things or interpret things. So you have to also keep that in mind if you are sharing stuff with the podcast.
All right, so you got those faculty senate minutes just sitting there.
Oh yeah,
Maybe you're curious about what's happening around campus.
right.
Maybe you're prepping for a meeting. Or hey, maybe you just love a good dose of bureaucratic drama.
Always fun.
Whatever your reason, buckle up.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into the minutes from that October 8th meeting.
Oh, that was a good one.
And let me tell you, things got interesting.
Oh yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? I don't know how that would be perceived or whatnot, but again, I mean, it's cool that it can summarize and do all those things. It'd be nice if you had a little bit more control over it. But keep that in mind. But again, a really neat functionality. I mean, once we figure out the sharing, right, to be able to put in your departmental meeting minutes, share that with your departments, ask questions of it, ask what are upcoming projects, what are due dates, what are things that we need to be working on, focused on, that kind of thing, and use that to your advantage. For that. So again, it could be committees, Senate meetings, all that stuff. Personal or professional research. So this one again, this is every day, whether you're a staff member doing daily tasks, preparing for a program or a project, whether you're a professor that's doing professional research, whether with individually or with colleagues around the world, that kind of thing. So you could be definitely using that for this purpose. And here I just have loaded some stuff for the QEP that's been talking about AI. So I loaded just some, again, from the library, some peer-reviewed articles on AI in higher education, AI, trainings, AI for student engagement, that kind of thing. Just loaded all those in just to kind of get an idea of what's out there, just as a little lit review. And then I can go ahead and quickly do that briefing document on these articles. I can also go in here and say, this one was about assessment, because there was one about assessment. How do faculty members view the benefits and challenges of incorporating? Okay, so we just click on that one. So that's going to go ahead and answer this question while the other one's producing the briefing. So now we have the briefing doc here. So the themes, it's going to look at the themes from the articles. So we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 articles. I don't think I have any duplicates. So that's interesting if it's only showing you 4 of the 5. But it's breaking down each of the sources and just kind of giving you that little summaries and some of the quotes here, which is nice in the conclusions. And then the note that I just did here, so faculty views on AI, benefits, challenges, professional development needs. So this is, how can incorporating this in their teaching practices. So again, a good read. And again, if I refresh this will disappear unless I click save to note. So I can click refresh. And then just the briefing document is saved, not my chat, and then the chat disappears. So again, that's a temporary chat functionality, I guess. So if you really like whatever the output is, you have to save it to note if you want to keep that. Okay. So I won't go on and into too much detail about research, because again, this is something that could be used for personal, professional use, but it's very effective for asking, for lit reviews, that kind of thing, but for asking questions of those studies to understand them better, to help you form an outline, to be able to begin research, writing, or if you're doing a project or program, so you're running a conference and you have different documents in there for how to run the conference, the requirements, the sessions, all that stuff. You want to help it synthesize that information to help you get ready for that conference or that event. You could do that too, not just for traditional research, if you will. And then the next one is the projects and programs. So speaking about conferences, here I loaded all from TLTCon 24. So we have our summary from Qualtrics, our survey from Qualtrics. We have our Whova results, which is from the app. And then we also have just the general summary, like some of the information from the report that we were preparing. And then I can ask it, which countries had the highest attendance. So of the 700 plus, faculty and staff that attended, which countries had the highest attendance? So it said 644 was from the United States, then 22 from Canada, and then other countries had 10 attendees each, had less than 10 attendees each. Okay. I can also ask it just some of these suggested questions. What were the main topics discussed and how did they affect satisfaction? Let's just see what that answer is. While that's working, I could say, what was, the general sentiment about the conference. All right, so up here, then it says some of the main topics. 75. All right, so 100% loved Huva. 52 out of 53 said they would recommend it to a colleague. Oh, okay, this is sentiment, sorry. This one just produced after the other one just popped up. Overwhelmingly positive, fantastic, very impressive, valuable. 100% of the attendees who responded to the survey said they loved Huva. 52 out of 53 said they would recommend it to a colleague. So again, this is something you could use to write your departmental reports if you're running, end of semester, end of year reports for your departments. If you're hosting an event, and again, Qualtrics can be a little intimidating, so I use Qualtrics all the time. But if you're running these reports and you're looking at them and you're like, man, that's a lot, or you want to share this information for the board or for your dean or your chair or for other, your director, and you want to synthesize this information or present it in a new way or a different way or put it into a PowerPoint, and you want to get some of the highlights or the feedback, now you could definitely use this tool for that. Another thing, because I think it included the quotes, right, was the briefing docs. Let's see if it includes some of the quotes here from the survey. So let's see if it does that real quick. And we can also grab those quotes out as opposed to looking through all the sources and trying to find the quotes. Maybe this will pull the quotes out for us. So here we go. Oh, so this already pulled out 700 registrations, 525 attendees, 20 countries represented, 46 speakers. And then, okay, so no, here it is, quotes, all right. Great conference, 10 every year, okay. And it's telling you where it's taking the quotes from. That's nice. So again, so it's already providing you some of that information. Again, all useful stuff for marketing and then also for sharing. Again, and let's try this here with the customized report. We want to share this with focus on sentiment and let's see if that works. So focus on sentiment, report to the board, keep it less than 5 minutes. Keep it to less than 5 minutes. All right, so it's going to generate the podcast. Let's see if it, like I said, it has it in the past. Kept the timing. It's always gone above the time, but let's see if it does that or not. And that's why I said too, sometimes it does take a little bit of time to generate, but this one maybe will be quick. It's not that many sources and they're pretty short, but maybe it has to read through all of it. I'm not sure. I know the course one did take a while, even though it was only, I think, 12 minutes, and that one was 19 minutes. And I was like, how is one 19 minutes? And it was one source or something like that. And the other one was multiple sources, and it ended up being 12 minutes. But hopefully with this, I mean, they're not terribly long. It shouldn't take too long. And then let's see if it sticks under 5 minutes for the actual podcast itself. And the other thing is, like, it says you can go away, which you can go away in this window, in this notebook. But if I back out to my notebooks, I don't know if it'll finish generating and then I have to load it again, or if, because a lot of times I've already generated them and I just have to hit load and it still takes some time to regenerate. But if I go back, I don't know, I mean, I guess we can test it. If I go back here and then I click on, okay, so it's still trying. Okay, that's good. So we'll go ahead and skip that for now, just let it come back to that. And then the last two here were, I think I already mentioned this, the YouTube test. So this was the private video, or not private, unlisted video from the conference from a couple years ago that I just made public, but I made it public like a couple days ago. And I thought that was plenty of time. I even made sure it had a transcript. I even made sure that the captions were correct, but it still will not load. And I tried to insert it again and it still won't do it. So it says this video cannot be imported, transcript not available, which is not true. So I don't know, because when I go to the actual video itself, there's a transcript. So again, I don't know how long that takes, and there's no information on that on actual on Google itself. So, and then this one was a NotebookLM tutorial. This was another YouTube video. So I just wanted to again go over some of the predefined things here, but I can also ask it, what are the main takeaways? And as you can see, you just whatever you want to know. Oops, I hate that it kind of pops up when you're doing other things too. So that's not cool. So what are the main takeaways? And again, remember, if you are creating something like this, like a note, If you don't save it to a note, it'll just disappear when you refresh or when you come back into this notebook. So we know it's by Google. Okay. Okay, 50 sources, generate different output based on provided sources. So yeah, we know it's a closed model. All right, so this is just an overview from another source, but it's nothing we don't already know here. So if I would like it, I can save it. You could also copy it if you wanted to copy the output and put it into something else. But we don't necessarily need that. So we're going to X out of there. And then the briefing doc, this one, briefing doc. So again, just kind of a general thing we already kind of know. Here's some quotes. So I guess the briefing doc is nice for quotes if you guys are interested in getting quotes for things. Okay. All right. So nothing, groundbreaking for that, but that is just using an actual video that works because it's a video that's been up there for, I want to say this video has been up for 6 months maybe or something like that. So this one's been up for a while, so it had no trouble with me getting this video and putting it into NotebookLM. Now let's go back to the conference and see if the podcast. Okay. See, look, so we said 5 minutes at 7:45. It's still better than 12 or 19, but it's not 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Welcome to this deep dive into TLTCon 2024. It's the conference on all things teaching, learning, and technology. And just imagine for a second, imagine that you're prepping for this big board meeting and you need to report on how it went.
Okay, so that's already not what we want. This is supposed to be customized to present to the board or something like that. You know what I mean? So again, I just picked a random audience, but this is not our intended, output, I guess.
You need the highlights, you need the good vibes, and maybe some pointers for next year. Well,
so it's kind of like talking to me as opposed to catering it for the audience, that is the board. So again, maybe this is some more about writing effective prompts or whatnot. What was this? Hold on, sorry about that. Okay, sorry. I was just looking in the chat, making sure. I thought maybe somebody's screen wasn't like it was frozen, like my screen was frozen, it wasn't working. So maybe this is more about effective prompt writing for the podcast. Maybe we got to play around with it more to see what we can do to get it to produce, better output for the podcast itself. But I just think it's going to be pretty limited because I think they're putting more of their resources into, I want to say it's called Illuminate. And that's going to be the one, I don't know if it's paid or how that's going to work, or maybe it already is paid. But I think that's the one that they're going to be putting all the resources in, obviously, because they're going to make money on it. To be able to have customizations on how long do you want it to be, who do you want us to talk to, like the audience, that kind of thing. Okay, so thanks, Beth. She said it's free now, but it's going to be paid probably. I mean, Google wants to make that money, just like they have the business one right now that's in pilot. But again, they're going to want to make money as well. So I'm still trying to figure out, because they said about, training and onboarding. So it seems really, because they said, higher ed and all that stuff could use this, so educational institutions. So I'm not sure how the business pilot is going to be more beneficial than the existing NotebookLM. This I see. So like if we were to put our knowledge base in here, what could it do with that? But I also don't know what exactly this is going to be different. So I don't know why. This is pilot. Maybe we can test it and see, but I don't know what's going to be different about this versus what we already have here. But anyways, yeah. So maybe we need to play around with some prompting on how to write this to actually produce the output we want. But if you're not concerned, if you're just needing something for marketing that is not focused on any particular audience, but just a general overview of like your events or anything like that, this could be maybe useful. And again, it's probably more for a personal study guide, study aid versus marketing. And maybe that's why they're branding the other stuff for more so marketing. But I'm always trying to use, take things and make multiple uses out of them, if that makes sense. But so anyways. And I think that's really all the examples. I mean, I'm sure there are a million other types of examples you can come up with. Obviously, we didn't talk about like personal things like recipes, all that stuff that you probably could do on your own personal stuff. But for academic purposes and staff-related purposes, I was trying to come up with things that could be used for both audiences. And again, there's probably a lot more, but I think the main takeaways are, this is a useful, very useful and effective tool for students for studying. I think it's useful for research and lit reviews for anyone, whether you're staff or faculty. And I think it's great to be able to ask questions of your sources, especially PDFs and that kind of thing, without needing a plugin, or I should say a sketchy plugin, because you don't know that company that created the plugin for ChatGPT or any of those other tools. In a closed environment that is temporary, it's closed, it's locked down. and it's not being shared. And Google says they're not training their model on your information or your sources or anything like that. Now, again, we know Google, but still, I think they're more trustworthy than other companies. So I think it's a great start, and I think it's a better use of AI than most things that have come out so far, with exclusion of some of the image generators and some of the audio or song generators, that kind of thing. Those are getting pretty cool. Video is still taking some time, but this is definitely one of the better text case uses, I think, that is definitely beneficial. Questions, comments, concerns? What are your guys' thoughts? Feel free to turn off your mic, turn on your mic, raise your hand, put anything in the chat you want to put in. Is there anything you guys have or want to say or anything like that? Questions, concerns, comments? I know we're a little bit over time, but again, kind of trying to load some of the podcasts and show you some of the different examples does take a little bit of time.
Hey, Chris, it would be fun to figure out the sharing.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was not that intuitive or not that easy. I mean, it appears that it should be. So I'm definitely going to be testing that more, and I'll figure that out and I'll update everyone on the training, or that's on the Zoom here. But yeah, I'm surprised. I thought if you just share, because it didn't say that it was restricted, like usual Google things that say restricted to CFC only, restricted to this or that. So that is interesting to me does it take a while to generate when you share it? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. I'm happy to be a tester, but I tried making one and then adding that, and it didn't take it. So you can't do it outside of, if you make a CFC one, you can only share with CFC. And if you do your personal, you can't share it with CFC. So that's interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe because in our environment, maybe it locks it down a little bit more for security purposes. I know with like Copilot and stuff like that, it tries to keep it more of a secure private environment. So maybe that's part of our licensing with Google or whatnot on our side of it, being able to use our CFC account. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but maybe that's some of the rationale behind why we can only share it with CFC people using a CFC account, that is.
Thank you very much.
It's like Beth put up something here, sharing, okay. A viewer will have read-only access to all source documents and notes you shared with them in the shared notebook. An editor will be able to view, add, or remove sources. All right, personal Gmail accounts can share with up to 50 individual users, but can't share with Google Groups. All right, here we go. Enterprise accounts. Enterprise accounts can share with a notebook with an unlimited number of individual users and group users within the same organization. All right, so there we go. So we can only share with CFC people, but an unlimited number of CFC people. So that might put a wrench in the sharing research with colleagues outside of CFC, but you could use your personal account to do that.
And when I tried to share, it didn't give me an option of making somebody an editor or whatever. It says there's a couple of different roles they can play, and I didn't have that option. It was just share it. And so I don't know if that's limited in the enterprise accounts or not, because I'm using my CFC account.
That's good. That's a good point too, because I didn't see it either. So I can ask Zach to look into that too.
I have the same thing happening on mine as well.
I think this could be super useful with students, particularly as they're sort of bringing together all their research for projects, but only, honestly, only if I was able to sort of look at what they were able to create. And so I don't know, the more we play around with it, I'm sure it'll get stronger and better. But yeah, if you get an answer to the sharing, I think there's some real potential for sort of helping them to understand, looking at the source material, looking at what gets created, and sort of seeing where the benefits and where the limitations are. So thank you, Chris. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Oh, yeah, we'll definitely do more testing. We'll test with personal accounts and try to share with CFC and vice versa, and try to see what we can do. And if that way we'll know if a student can then share, if you want to use your CFC account, or if you have to use your personal account if they're sharing stuff with you. But yeah, I don't know too I don't know if and when students might have access. I don't know. I don't think it's on our side. I think it's a Google decision or whatnot as to why it's only us with the enterprise license being able to use it right now at this point. Maybe it's got to be maybe it might be like K-12 related. So I think I saw in the documentation to be 18 and older, and I'm not sure why that is. I mean, obviously I know they got in trouble before with YouTube and things like that for kids not being 13 and older and that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if it's just protection and they're worried about that in the EU and all that stuff that happened in the past with Google. But perhaps right now you got to be 18 and older. Maybe they can't verify that because some students could, in theory, be 17. I guess being freshmen. So maybe they're working on that or whatnot. But right now I know it's just faculty and staff, which is bizarre. But I don't think it's anything on our side. I think it's strictly on Google's side with that. All right. Any other questions or concerns or comments or how you might use it? Anybody want to share how you might use it in your day-to-day life, your everyday tasks?
Chris, I just tried it with my Gmail account.
Uh-huh.
And I was able to add somebody with my personal Gmail.
Oh, cool. And like I mentioned before too, with the help.charleston.edu, we're going to be adding, not that this now that it is part of our institutional, I don't want to say licensing or anything like that, but now that it is part of our tool set, we'll be creating knowledge-based articles on this. So step-by-steps, things like this question just came up, how do I share this, that kind of thing. So we'll be creating those articles and putting them in there. So if there are any questions that you have, faculty or staff, or if students can I use this? How do I use this? That kind of thing. All those will be pre-populated in there, so they'll have access to that. We'll be working on those here. We're working on right now, finishing up all the Copilot ones for Copilot 365, and integrations with all the different tools, so like Microsoft Word and Outlook and all that. But then we'll be also adding NotebookLM as well, since I think there's going to be a lot more use. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot more use for this. Okay, well, if there's no more questions or comments or anything, then I'll let you have the rest of your morning back. So thank you all so much, and I hope you got some benefit out of this. Like I said, I know it's kind of a lot, but it can be a pretty neat, powerful tool. Just kind of have to figure out, just like with all AI tools, how can I do things more efficiently, more effectively? And really comes down with, to prompt writing, but also what are some of ways that I can use this tool, to help me with my everyday tasks, that kind of thing. So I think it's great. And also just pushing it to your students, if you are an instructor, or even if you're staff. I mean, some staff are working, with students in support roles, that kind of thing. I think it'd be beneficial for them too as well. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Recording stopped.